Hi, everybody. Welcome to Lead with Love. I'm your host, Chris Greco. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to explore some areas and people that you may have not come across, but they are lending an impact to both society in the United States as well as, in some cases, international. And today we're going to have Gretchen Wollert with us. Now, you may not have heard of Gretchen Wollert, and that's okay. I mean, she has done a book, and we'll talk about this book later on. But she is from Louisville, Kentucky. I hope I pronounced that right. Rather than saying Louisville, but Louisville, Kentucky. Uh, she uh, she does farming. She she is a teacher, entrepreneur. She's like I said, she's done a book, and we'll talk about that book a little bit later. The thing about her, Gretchen, is that, and what I really enjoyed about her is her very energetic, enthusiastic mode of talking, and she's passionate about what she believes, which is really kind of cool. And that's, again, we'll delve in that as time goes on. But you had enough hearing from me. Let's bring Gretchen on. So Gretchen Waller, hi, and welcome aboard. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing a little bit about yourself with us. I think that during the pre-show we talked about different aspects, and we had a lot of fun conversing. But again, you don't want to hear about me. So Gretchen, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I kind of hit on it a little bit, but tell us a little about yourself and about your upbringing. I want to hear about your childhood.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to just talk about all of this. I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. I had a reasonably happy childhood. One thing about my parents, my father is a command sergeant major in the Army, well, retired from the Army Reserves. I have an older brother and a younger sister. Louisville, Kentucky, we grew up in the suburbs, but it was a new suburb. We were right on the edge of a very large forested area. My parents were, I don't know if you want to call it the wonder years, kind of 60s and 70s. But my parents were very strict as far as discipline. They set firm boundaries for us. We had to be good. We had to behave. We had to be obedient. We
Whoa,
had
whoa,
to
whoa.
mind.
Wait a minute. Really? Holy mackerel. I mean, how, wow. You had to like be polite and learn please and thank you, things like that.
I know,
And
and we even
wow.
when we strayed, we had to mind our manners. When we strayed, we were spanked. It was very deliberate, and we knew what the boundaries were. But I remember growing up having so much freedom. I would explore the woods. I always had a book with me. I was an avid reader. Reading, it's the most wonderful, one of the most wonderful things in the world, to make sure our children learn to read. It can take you so many different places, um, and not leave home. But I remember having so much freedom. Our parents dealt with us strictly and gave us those boundaries, but within those boundaries, they were encouraging. Yeah, we had our issues as a family. Um, I fought with my brother and sister like we were like cats and dogs
No.
at each
Really?
other.
That,
We
really?
were, um, you know,
Wow.
and
I've never fought with my brothers and sisters ever.
yeah,
We're
well,
always just, lovey-dovey. So go ahead, Gretchen. I'm sorry.
but within that family, and that is so incredibly important. If I could wish one thing on every single person in the world, is to grow up in a family that is stable. That's one thing that is so critical to the beginning of life. It's not necessarily that thing that is going to determine whether you are a success or a failure or whatever you want to do in life, but it is meant to give you a good start in life. And the encouragement and the boundaries set by parents is so important, and we had that. But we also had freedom. um, we didn't do a lot of I don't believe there was ever a time we were allowed to be bored. We had to use our imaginations and just do do whatever. My parents instilled in us, there were high expectations. We were expected to do the very best we could, no matter what. That was important. And all of my growing up, education was a high priority. And I always remember easily faith, family, and freedom. Those three are so important together in anybody's life. And growing up in a stable family that was, and a very loving family. Uh, and also the importance of faith, uh, church, going to church, the example my parents set, the expectations they had that there is a God and He is in charge. So we need to pay attention to that. Um,
So how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have,
What do you have?
an
Count.
older brother and I have a younger sister,
That's
and I
great.
have still have both my parents. I
Wow.
have a grandmother, by the way. My
Wow.
mom's mom. She's going on 107.
Gosh,
So,
darn. So, well, we'll get right into the questions, which is, the first question is, who helped you learn your talents. But I would love to hear what you're able to learn from your grandmother, having her around basically your whole life. I mean, what was it that she taught you that maybe your dad and mom didn't quite hit upon, that you all of a sudden I'm a grandparent. That's why it's kind of important to realize that the grandparents do have something to give, right? So what did you learn from your grandparent? I'm just curious about that.
well, my grandmother. Okay, we
Okay.
called her Gammy. I had a Gammy and a Pop Pop. Um, we One thing my dad always did is we always had good vacations. We would go to my grandparents' farm every Christmas and also during the summertime. Um, Grandmother was imagine a tennis playing socialite type of grandmother. That's what she was. She was kind of a society lady, but on the farm. It's kind of an odd combination, but it was a truck farm there in Pennsylvania, but they turned it into a business because my grandfather was a very adventurous. He would go on vacations and scuba dive in the Bahamas and bring home slideshows. And so all of the adventure that my grandparents would go on, they're not the sit and knit type of. She is not the sit and knit type of grandmother at all, but very adventurous and uh, very lenient compared to my mom and dad. So there were summers where I was not old enough to go on the other family vacation that included a lot of water and canoes. And I remember when I was, I don't know, 5 or 6, spending a month in the summer because me and my younger sister weren't old enough yet because of the safety of the boats and things that my folks went on there uh, to a vacation house that we have on a big river. And she was very lenient, and yet we knew what the rules were. Just taught me that almost anything goes. Imagination, getting out into nature. What is it you want to do most? Or just sitting and reading a book for hours and hours at a time. Just and she is so. Even now, she is going on 107. My mom, she is in a home, and my mother goes and visits her daily. They live down there in Florida, right with her, and she's a master at Skippo. She still plays. Her mind is sharp, and uh, just just I envy her in.
I know.
And
It's-
I don't know, is it something to attain longevity, or I think it's more the deal of the cards that you get. But hopefully longevity is in my family, and I hope to live grace. Grace is what I have always thought of her. She has always held herself and conducted her anything with grace. And I appreciate, if anything, I learned that example from her. I know I won't be quite that graceful or gracious. I have much too strong a temper. Um, but
Well, and
that's what
that's
she taught me.
so. What? How many kids do you have, if you don't mind me asking? I have two. How many do you have?
Four daughters.
Four daughters.
Yes.
Wow, great. I have two
I
daughters. That's good.
I have grandchildren on the way. We just got a new grandson down the
Oh,
road on Monday. So,
oh,
and
that's great.
my
Well,
oldest
well,
daughter had twins.
are they going to call you Gammy, or what are they going to call you? They,
No, it's Gigi. It's Gigi.
Gigi.
It's
Great.
Grandma Gretchen.
Well, that's so. I'm gonna summarize here. So basically, you learned your talents from your parents, from your brothers and sisters, who it was funny because fighting with brothers and sisters aren't really fighting. It basically what happens is you kind of figure out where you're, you know, where you are in the scheme of things. And sometimes that takes fighting, sometimes it takes discussion, sometimes it takes cuss and discuss, whatever it's going to take. That's where you are in that pecking order of things with the siblings. So I mean, I get that. I'm one of six. So so that's, that's good. So learn from that, from just plain reading. I mean, so you love to write because you love to read. There's a definite association between those two things. So that's really, really neat to be able to learn and to have your parents encourage that. I think says a lot for who you are and for what you offer. So on that note, when you have your talents, you have a talent like writing, like you have, and educating like you have. What do you offer others? And this is, you mentioned it before about the truth. I'm really into the truth. So how do you offer truth to others?
Well, as an educator and historian, um, one thing about writing is there are two aspects to it. You talked about the talent for writing. The talent for writing is more or less being able to convey what you think into words. But there's also the skill of writing, and that's where you have to learn and be educated. I went to school in um, East Tennessee. And when I got to college, it was absolutely the most amazing thing in the world to be able to. I think I had five majors only because I was so excited in all the different areas of education. Finally, my first degree is in history because that is the most credits that I had in any one area. Believe it or not, I have a biology minor. And if that doesn't
Wow.
um, show you that I learning, I just have this passion for learning, and that's what I like to give to others. I spent after I got a degree in history, I came west. Yes, I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. However, we live in southeast Wyoming, and this is where I raised my daughters. We've been here for 30 years. I headed west after I graduated, which was quite adventuresome. Met my husband out here, decided that, okay, a history degree, what am I going to do with it? Uh, I used to play teacher in the basement when I was growing up. And it never occurred to me for 4 years in college to become a teacher. My mom was a nurse, so I started in pre nursing. Um, and like I said, I got distracted along the way, but I earned the degree. I came west, met my husband, decided, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to get an English degree and I want teaching certification because I love to teach. I didn't really know how much I love to teach, but I taught, I got my teacher certification in Southeast Colorado in Pueblo. We moved up to Wyoming. I also coached for a while. I was a 4-year volleyball um, athlete in college and love coaching is just another form of teaching. It's just conveying to someone um, that thing that you love. I got a teaching job with a local Christian school here, just a small school, and I taught fourth and fifth graders for 8 years. Loved it, learned so much. I think that's where I developed. Yes, I got a history degree in East Tennessee, but I think my love of history came in imparting it to those fourth and fifth graders. Um, and in the process of raising our daughters, we had four daughters during that time. The eighth year of teaching, my last daughter was born, and I decided I've got to be home to raise these girls. I did not want to be an absent mom that took them to daycare every day. That was important to me. So I stopped teaching when my fourth daughter was born, and I decided to learn something else so that I could stay home. And believe it or not, I did taxidermy for 10 years just so that I could stay home with my girls. We lived on a farm, my husband, but I had to replace that income. And I have this artistic.
I'm sorry, I just, I'm sorry, I just can't picture you, just, taxidermy. But hey, it's you have a bio degree. I mean, it's or bio minor. So there you go.
That
You
was
are
just leaving it, so you kind of know that I have some talents in artistic things.
yes,
Being a writer is very artistic. You use that left brain a lot, and you
yes.
have to be able to convey to people those thoughts and those ideas and those visions. Taxidermy did make really good money, and it was very artistic in rebuilding of animals, but it was something in this area that was needed, and I saw it and I did it. um,
Did you start out like with small animals, like squirrels, and or did you get like I'm gonna do a deer's head, or an elk head or whatever?
it was all self-educated. People go, there are taxidermy schools and you can go and do that, but there were videos I ordered, and I don't know if I want to tell you all of this.
No, no, no.
I started
And that's okay. As a
small.
matter of fact, let's write the book. We're gonna
Okay.
we're gonna write the book, self-help taxidermy, for the for those that really want to do the stuffing. I mean, it's just I don't know.
Okay, you
So,
start small and then you work your way up. And then you decide that you're good enough. You can start asking people to pay you to do certain things. But anyway, I did that for 10 years while raising the girls.
jeez,
Still
amazing.
substituted in the school system. I was still a teacher. And I do community education classes
Oh my
on
gosh.
all kinds of things because, like my college career, um, when I learned something new, I just went all in for it and I loved it. And so there's so many different things that I do. I've taught classes on all types of things from Abraham Lincoln to making your own cinnamon rolls. So
Now,
it just
what did I
depends.
say? What did I say at the beginning of this, Gretchen? I said that you would actually make the transit. You do my job. You're doing my job here. You're transitioning into the question here. How do you educate others? How are you educate? Just keep talking. You're doing good, and then pretty soon you're going to get into value stuff, and I'm going to go right into that one. It's just you're doing a great job. Just
Well,
keep going. So
anybody who knows anything about teaching, anyone who loves to teach, it's not necessarily limiting yourself to just one topic. Doing community education classes for adults in which you can just use a talent or a skill that you learned. I did do a class on how to mount your ring-necked pheasant and put it on the wall. So, once a teacher, always a
yep,
teacher. And
yep.
one thing I've learned about teaching is if you want to learn something, teach a class. And that is absolutely true. Coaching, I coached some of my daughters in volleyball, and that's teaching.
Yeah.
And being able to impart those skills and those passions that you have. The best kind of teaching is the teaching that comes from the heart, that you love to do, and others, that rubs off on everybody. You're able to have in a class and teach. And I still do classes. I plan to do one I have a small business now, and it is a spring greenhouse. It is. I have
Oh, okay.
seven
So it's not
greenhouses.
taxidermy.
No,
Okay.
it's not. That was only
That
so I
was,
could
but
stay
again,
home with the girls.
yeah,
There was a point where they decided, Mom, um,
this
yeah,
is
and
kind of
I'm like,
creepy.
okay,
Can we
it
move
did.
on? Sorry, no, I didn't mean it. I mean, it's, hey, it's money. Hey,
It was. And it was
that's
important for me to be able to
right.
stay home and raise the girls and be a part of all of that. It's a rat race. I don't ever want to be a part of a rat race. A rat race is when somebody else is guiding what you do and determining what you should do. At one point, I thought I can be super mom, I can be a super woman, and then I decided, that's I'd rather do the things that I want to do and that I am inspired to do. That's important. Following by faith, those going through the open doors that God puts before you. That is absolutely critical. Anybody who wants to be successful in life, you have to be attuned to what is available. If you have faith that God is there in your life, that is guiding your life, it's important that you listen to those pathways that they take you on. Anyway, I've got a greenhouse, and this spring I'll be teaching a class on straw bale gardening.
Wow.
You could Google
Wow.
it and find out what it's like, but it's one of those things,
You're
writing
just amazing. I mean, that
writing the
really,
first.
seriously, Gretchen. I mean, here's amazing. My mother used to tell me a story that, hey, Chris, when God closes a door, he opens up a window. And I was having such bad luck. I said, yeah, but mom, mine would be on the 35th floor. So I always, I always looked upon those adages as being something, but you're right. And that goes right into what you value in others, because what you value in yourself, from what I'm gathering, is do what you like to do, what makes you feel passionate, what passion towards that specific subject. Do what is necessary to do in order to be able to, one, increase your skills or talents, and also to be able to support you and to be able to do the things within the limitations of staying at home and doing all those areas. But what do you value in others? What I'm thinking is, you value in others the same thing, like, that sense of independence, that sense of, hey, and you're probably putting that on your girls, is that, hey, do what you want to do what you like to do, but understand you still got to bring money in. So it can't be like, hey, I want to do, underwater basket weaving. It's got to have to be something that, entrepreneurship or whatever it is. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, absolutely. I value initiative. The girls, high expectations, being nice to others. Uh, there are struggles too, though. It's not all, sometimes you need to do what you must. And and God will help you get through that. If there are times where it is tough and a struggle, commitment is incredibly important. I learned that growing up. We taught our daughters that commitment is critical. Having the will to do something and a work ethic. I remember chores growing up. We were expected to do them. We could not shirk them. It was required, but it was nothing like when we came to the farm, and we actually started with nothing. My husband and I moved from Southeast Colorado to Southeast Wyoming, and we started with absolutely nothing. Began and he had farmed the family farms down there in Colorado, but circumstances took us away from that. And we love Wyoming, and we're so glad that we moved here. We're able to raise our daughters we only have 500 people, 500,000 people in
Oh,
Wyoming. There's only 500,000 in the whole state. We're the least populated state. Um, but coming up here, and I always tell anybody who asks, what is the number one thing for raising good kids? And I said, well, you got to give them the boundaries, make sure that you make them mind, but give them tons of freedom and encouragement and love and lots of chores, because that you're preparing them for life. And life is, teaching them how to stick with those boundaries, love others as well, faith, family, freedom. Just lots of chores will help them to
We
focus on what's important. But then, when it's time to play, then you can play
I
after work is done.
we so speaking of time to play, so we have about 5 minutes left, and I want to make sure I hit your book. So I want you to talk about your book. I have your magical website on, so we can talk to that. So this is your website, GretchenWollert.com, and it talks about. I mean, the the debate here, right? Learn about the genius, tenacity, humor, and more of two American presidents. Uncovering these unexpected similarities between Presidents Lincoln and Trump. So, I realize at this point that people are going to say, "I don't like President Trump," and blah 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 blah, blah, and they're going to move on. I get that, and I understand. This is not about politics. This is about a book that Gretchen wrote that compares two presidents. This took an immense amount of research on her part, and this is not just some, I'm going to put this together because I just want to just put it together. You must have seen, and I heard you on the World Edition show talking about that. You saw the similarities between two individuals, and you really liked Abraham Lincoln. So tell us a little bit about the book, and tell us a little bit about, what you did and how you wrote it, that type of thing, in the time we have left, please.
Well, I thought I knew a lot about Abraham Lincoln. I taught school children for years an example of just an awesome president. But whenever Donald Trump won in 2016, his first administration, I noticed some similarities. He won with less than half the popular vote. He was very tall. And had a 10-year-old son when he was elected, just like Abraham Lincoln. And he came with a first lady who was immediately just lambasted by the media for everything she wore, and that was Mary Lincoln. And I thought, well, is this even possible to have Abraham Lincoln similar to Donald Trump? And that began 3 years of in-depth research of who Abraham Lincoln was, who Donald Trump was. And what I did with the book is there were so many things that I learned about Abraham Lincoln that I never knew. I think we get the sanitized version. He is a real man in every aspect of Donald Trump's life. I found similarities to Abraham Lincoln, but you had to dig for it. What I did was reveal the men behind the myths. Abraham Lincoln hid his ego and arrogance. He was very, very arrogant in believing that he was a genius. Actually, you had to find that. He hid it very well. It didn't work for him in politics. Humility worked for him, so he presented that. Donald Trump, of course, his is kind of backwards. You have to find his more virtuous characteristics hidden by that huge showmanship facade that he has all the time. His faith, his empathy for others. So I revealed these, and I finally, 1 year of writing brought me 10 chapters of not just a few, but hundreds and hundreds of similarities, from their ancestors to their leadership styles to how they raise their children, workaholic husbands, how they communicate to the masses, just all of that. It was I was inspired to do it, and I was very passionate about. Once I found another similarity, I just went on to the next one. And it was just amazing what I uncovered about both presidents.
Well, what we'd like to do is, we're just about out of time, so I am going to invite you back in about 6 months. I usually do about a 6 month thing where I bring back people 6 months, say, "Hey, what's been happening? We talked about this a little bit about this before. How's it going? Anything new in your life? That type of thing. New grandkids, whatever else." So we'll talk about those types of things. But I would like to thank you so much for coming on, and certainly was sharing all these great stories, and the writing aspect and the taxidermy thing. I think was just precious. I just that it was such a good story. I love it. So I mean, all the things you have to do, right, to make it, to make it right. And I want you to hang around a little bit afterwards. We'll talk post show. But this was very inspiring for me. Thank you so much, and I really do appreciate you coming on for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that about does it for Lead with Love for this episode. I hope you appreciated Gretchen. I certainly did. Her story was inspiring to me, and I already bought the book, so I'll take a look at that, and I'll be reading that as it goes. She also has podcasts which are out there, so just look up GretchenWollert.com and take a look at those different things. I've listened to some of them, and they're very, very good. So until next time, I'm going to say lead with love, and make sure that you learn, offer value, and educate. The best thing you can do in your life is share what you know, share the knowledge and experience that you have, because otherwise what happens is that goes away with you. So until next time, this is Chris Greco. Thank you for watching.